Okay, so exponents. This should have a W with it, so it should say when you first learned multiplication, you probably represented multiplication using repeated addition in groups. So basic exponent operations can be represented and repeated by, what do you think?
Never mind. Oh, letters?
Well, I could have letters. It means the same thing, but I'm not going to. It says it right in the thing, guys. It says it right in that paragraph, right in that sentence. Basic exponent operations can be represented by repeated what?
Addition group.
Repeated.
Addition group.
Not addition.
Exponent.
Nope.
Repeated.
Multiplication. So when you guys learned how to multiply, it was you could do repeated addition. When you're doing exponent, it's considered repeated multiplication. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Okay? So, right here, this is what an exponent looks like. It has b to the n. Okay? They just put it in variable form because variables can represent any numbers. I can plug any numbers into its place. It means the same thing. So b is multiplied by itself n times. So here is what I mean by that. Right here we have an example. This is our bell work example, wasn't it? 4 to the third power. Yeah. What that means is that I have b, which is what we call the base. The b, or the big number, is what we call the base. You take your base, the 4 in this case, and you multiply it by itself the exponent number of times. So the n is what we call the exponent. So it's 4 to the third power means 4 times 4 times 4. Peyton.
Wouldn't 4 times 4 times 4 be 94?
No. We'll check your math in a second, okay? So, here we go. So let's check this. So it says 4 times 4. You do 2 numbers at a time. We never do more than that. So if I cross off that times 4, what is 4 times 4, everyone?
16.
So 4 times 4 is what? 16. So now I have, instead of times 4, it's 16 times 4. And if you do your math, that will then get you to the answer, which we say is 64. So it is your base, whatever your big number is, times itself, however many times you see that exponent. So here I have what? How do I say this?
1 to the 5th power.
1 to the 5th power. 1 to the power of 5. What does that mean, everyone?
1 to the 5th power. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1.
So 1 times 1 is,
1.
and 1 times 1 is, and 1 times 1 is, and 1 times 1 is. So my answer is 1. I have a lot of people who every single year, and even on tests and quizzes that we do, that will tell me the answer is 5. Because there's 5 ones. Be very, very careful. It is the most common missed question. I'm not joking, guys. It is very common to miss. It happens every year, all the time. Okay, so let's do this one now. It says 3 to the second. What does 3 to the second mean?
3 times 2.
3 times 3. Guys, there's a lot of shouting out. And I get yesterday was a snow day, and I get we've only had one day of school in the past however many days. but you guys know what we're doing. So 3 is my base, so that is the number, and I multiply it by itself, the number of numbers I see in the exponent. So it's 3 times 3, which is 9. So right here, it says when we say an exponent out loud, we call a number a power of 2, meaning 3 to the second power. Instead of saying 3 to the second power, we say 3 squared. So this is 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. So anytime you see it with a 2, it's squared. Anytime you see it with a 3, like 4 to the third power, we say 4 cubed. So if you hear the word squared and cubed, know that means the exact same thing as 4 to the third power, 3 to the second power. They mean the exact same thing. You can technically say it either way. Okay, let's try it. 2 to the 5th power. What's it mean, everyone? 2 times. So say it out loud. What's it mean? 2 times. So you are writing 2 5 times being multiplied together. Because the exponent is 5, so that's the number of 2's that I need to have, and they're all being multiplied together. Now, once again, we have to be really, really careful. Do we have to show our work?
Yes.
Yes. Are we allowed to use calculators? No. So, do the math with me. 2 times 2 is? 4. And you can really multiply in any way you want, right? You can multiply any direction you want. You could do 4 times 2, or you could do 2 times 2 again. It's your choice. You should get the same answer no matter what. Most of you, I'm sure, then did 4 times 2, right?
Yeah.
What's 4 times 2?
8.
And then you're going to do 8 times 2. What's 8 times 2?
16. 32.
And then last but not least, we have 16 times 2, which is?
32.
Which means 2 to the 5th power is 32. Questions? Peyton.
For number 6, can't you just add 13 zeros behind 10?
We're going to get to that one in just a minute, okay?
Okay.
So everyone go and do number 2 for me. Alright guys, what's 5 to the third mean? What does 5 cubed mean? What's 5 cubed mean? Okay, everyone, let's try that again. What does 5 cubed mean? 5 times 5 times 5. So when I ask what's it mean, you guys should all be able to tell me that right there. That's what it means. I don't want to know the answer. I want to know what's it mean. How would you solve it? So 5 times 5 is what? Okay, what does 5 times 5 mean?
25.
Thank you. And 25 times 5 is what? You should have hopefully told me 125. Okay, 10 to the third. Okay, this is kind of going along with what Peyton's question was. What does 10 to the third mean?
10 times 3. I mean 10 times 10.
Hey, everyone, I should hear everyone responding, or I'm going to start calling on random people. What does 10 to the third mean? So write that down. That's what it means. Which means when I multiply anything by 10 and I have zeros, what do I have to do?
Add the zeros behind it.
So how many zeros should I have in my answer?
3.
I have how many zeros?
3.
So I need how many in my answer?
3.
3. So that answer would be 1,000. Okay, everyone answer 4, 5, and 6 for me. Okay, what does 12 to the first mean? What does 12 to the first mean?
12 times 1.
Can't be 12 times 0, because what's 12 times 0?
0.
0. Now, it's not really 12 times 1, because those aren't the same numbers, is it? So it's just what?
12.
It is just 12.
Not
You can't do any multiplication with it because there's nothing to multiply it by because it's to the first power. It's just by itself. So if we look off to the side right here, it says any number to the first power is itself. Anytime it says 12 to the first, 4 to the first, 5 to the first, anytime it's to the first power, it is just itself. Okay, number 5. What's the answer to number 5, everyone? You should have told me 100,000 because I need 5 zeros in my answer. How many zeros should we have in our answer for number 6?
13.
You should have 13 zeros. There we go, I believe that's it. So yeah. So right here it says powers of 10 will only contain ones and zeros. So anytime you have 10 to any sort of power, just add all the zeros behind it. There's nothing else you need to do. Last part right here, you are not going to be tested over it. You do not need to know it this year. You'll have to know it, I think, next year in 8th grade year. So we're not going to worry about this, but we're going to write it in just because we have it. Any number to the 0 power is 1. What I mean by that is if I have 4 to the 0 power, do you see what I mean by 0 power, everyone? 0 in the exponent spot. The answer is 1. Now, like I said, you don't have to know that this year, but because it's there, we're going to write it down. Okay. Ready to move on? Next page. There's no room on that page. Title this page Perfect Squares. Because perfect squares go along with exponents. What I mean by perfect squares is we have 1 squared. 1 to the second power. We have 2 squared. 2 to the second power. 3 squared. we can keep going. 4 squared. We're going to go all the way to 12. So do your squares, write them down, all the way to 12 for me. Hey Peter, will you grab the door for me, bud? Okay. And then once you've gotten through 12, those are all ones that should actually already be memorized, right guys? Okay? Because what does 1 squared mean?
1.
What does it mean?
1.
That's the answer. What does it mean? 1 times, and 1 times 1 is?
1.
So 1 squared, your answer is 1. What does 2 squared mean? 2 times 2, which is?
4.
What does 3 squared mean?
9.
Which is?
9.
So 1 through 12, do you see what I mean? Should already be memorized, guys?
Yeah.
It's just a different way of stating a math problem. 4 squared is what? 4 times 4, which is?
16.
5 squared is what?
5 times 5.
Which is?
25.
6 squared means what?
6.
Which is?
36.
7 squared means?
7 times 7.
Which is?
49.
8 squared means?
8 times 8.
Which is?
64.
9 squared means?
9 times 9.
Which is?
81.
10 squared means?
10 times 10.
Which is?
100.
11 is probably the hardest one. Students mess this one up. What does 11 mean?
11 times 11.
And 11 times 11 is?
121.
121. That's the one I see the most errors on. 12 squared means?
12 times 12.
Which is?
124.
So those should already all be memorized, right guys? Okay, so what we need to write down now is we need to write down 13 squared all the way to 20 squared. And then I'm just going to give you these answers because I know that you guys don't have them memorized and I don't want to take the time to do the multiplication today. So 13 squared means what, everyone? And 13 times 13 ends up being 169. Fourteen squared means what? And 14 times 14 is 196. 15 squared means what? Which is 225. 16 squared means what? Which is 256. 17 squared means what? Which is 289. 18 squared means? which is 324. 19 squared means what? Which is 361. And 20 squared means? 20 times 20, which is 400. So one half of the page you should hopefully already have memorized. The other half of the page, what do you think you have to do with it? You have to memorize it. So you need to memorize this page. You guys will have a quiz over it. I think it's Tuesday. Nope, it's Wednesday. Next Wednesday. So you will have a quiz next Wednesday over this page, which means you need to be studying it, you need to be memorizing it. The best thing I can tell you to do with this to help you memorize it is to make flashcards. So you start now. That way you can have it all memorized by the time next Wednesday rolls around. Got it? Any questions on exponents? Okay, everyone, I'm going to pause this.